Well, all right. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Param Guru A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada. And all glories to our revered speaker for today, Her Grace JAYASRI Devi, a devout disciple of Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada. And we are very fortunate to have the association with us today. Well, Mother, let me say this through this particular channel to say a big thank you for being with us in Gidanagri, observing the 20th disappearance of His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. It was a very wonderful celebration.
It was.
Your presence made it more beautiful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I was happy to be there.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we have two verses we are tackling today. So I'll put the verse on the screen, and if you wouldn't mind, I may chant the Sanskrit words, slokas, and then you may speak. Okay, let me see. If I'm not mistaken, it's like this is my first time actually seeing Bhagavatam sloka with only 2 lines.
Yeah, it's not very common.
It's not very common, yeah. Okay, so would you want to chant the invocation mantras, or you want me to go ahead and do it? Which way?
I can sing. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 10, Text 13 and 14.
So text 13. Yate dhyanim tata grecha paschat api itat edrisham. Yate dhyanim tare tata grecha paschat api etat edrisham. Yata as it is, idanim at present. Tata, so it was. Agre in the beginning, cha and paschat at the end, api also. Etat edrisham, it continues to be the same. Maybe we go to text 14 and chant that also. 10:14. Sargo nava vidastasya prakrito vaikritastuya kaladravya guner asya trividaha pratisha kramaha. Sargo nava vidastasya prakrito vaikritastuya kaladravya guner asya trivida pratisankramaha. Sargo navavidastasya prakrito vaikritastuya kaladravya gunair asya trividaha pratisankramaha. Synonyms: Sargaha, creation. Navavidaha, of 9 different kinds. Tasya, its. Prakrita, material. Vaikrita, by the modes of material nature. 2, but. Ya, that which. Kala, eternal time. Dravya, matter. Gunahi, qualities. Asya, its. Trividaha, 3 kinds. Pratisankramaha, annihilation. Translation.
I can do the translation.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Translation. This cosmic manifestation is as it is now. It was the same in the past, and it will continue to be the same way in the future. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There is a systematic schedule for the perpetual manifestation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material world, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Uttam Gramam Imam Kristanam Avishyam Prakriter Vasat. As it is created now and as it will be destroyed later on, so also it existed in the past, and again it will be created, maintained, and destroyed in due course of time. Therefore, the systematic activities of the time factor are perpetual and eternal and cannot be stated to be false. The manifestation is temporary and occasional, but it is not false as claimed by the Mayavadi philosophers. Text number 14, the translation. There are 9 different kinds of creation besides the one which naturally occurs due to the interactions of the modes. There are 3 kinds of annihilations due to eternal time, the material elements, and the quality of one's work. Purport. The scheduled creations and annihilations take place in terms of the supreme will. There are other creations due to interactions of material elements, which take place by the intelligence of Brahma. Later, these will be more explicitly explained. At present only, preliminary information is given. The 3 kinds of annihilations are: 1, due to the scheduled time of the annihilation of the entire universe; 2, due to the fire which emanates from the mouth of Ananta; and 3, due to one's qualitative actions and reactions. Om Agyanatimirandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. We're born in the darkness of ignorance, but our spiritual master is kindly opening our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. So we offer our most humble and respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. So, first I wanted to say hello to everyone. So nice to be in your association. So nice to be invited to try and speak something on these great literatures. And I also have to say that these literatures in many places are way over my head. But I looked up, I actually listened to 3 or 4 classes on these 2 verses. And I didn't get a lot of information about the details on these creations, but I wanted to read in a couple of places where Prabhupada goes into a little bit more detail about these creations. One is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, text 30 and 34. So I am going to read some of these just to elaborate a little more on what's being said in the verses. Text 30, in the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. The next verse, after creating the material substance, the Lord expands himself and enters into it. And although he is within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. 32. The Lord, as the supersoul, pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood. And so he appears to be of many varieties. although he is absolute, one without a second. 33. The super soul enters into the bodies of the created beings, who are influenced by the modes of material nature, and cause them to enjoy the effects of these bodies by subtle mind. 34. Thus the Lord of the universes maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men, lower animals, assuming the roles of incarnations. He performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. And I did note that he reclaims those in the mode of pure goodness. So we definitely want to keep ourselves as much as possible in the mode of goodness and elevate ourselves through our sadhana and association to the mode of pure goodness, so that Krishna will reclaim us also. And in Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 1 through 5, Krishna is the source of all incarnations. That's the name of the chapter. Text 1, Sutta said, in the beginning of the creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients of the material creation, which is basically what it said in the previous set of texts. And thus, at first, there was the creation of the 16 principles of the material action. This was for the purpose of creating the material universes. Text 2, a part of the Purusha lies down within the water of the universe. From his navel lake of his body sprouts a lotus stem, and from the lotus flower atop the stem, Brahma, the master of all engineers in the universe, becomes manifest. It is believed that all universal planetary systems are situated on the extensive body of the Purusha, as he has nothing to do with the created material ingredients. His body is eternally in spiritual existence par excellence. Next, 4. The devotees with their perfect eyes see the transcendental form of the Purusha, who has thousands of legs, thighs, arms, and faces, all extraordinary. In that body, there are thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses. They are decorated with thousands of helmets and glowing earrings and are adorned with garlands. This form, the secondary manifestation of the Purusha, is the source and destructible seed of multifarious incarnations within the universe. From the particles and portions of this form, different living entities like demigods, men, and others are created. And there's one more. Canto 2, Chapter 4, 22 and 23. Text 22. May the Lord, who in the beginning of the creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma within his heart, and inspired him with full knowledge of creation and of his own self, and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma, be pleased with me. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivens the material created bodies of the elements by lying down within the universe, and who in his Purusha incarnation causes the living being to be subjected to the 16 divisions of material modes, which are his generator, be pleased to decorate my statements. It's amazing. The Bhagavatam has a lot of different descriptions about the creation. Not as simple as the biblical. This goes into just a lot of detail. Srila Prabhupada says that the Vedic literatures are extremely detailed. We know Krishna's name, Prabhupada said. We know his form. We know his parents. We know his activities, his different incarnations, his different pastimes. There's so much detail in these literatures. Prabhupada said it was like the dictionary. You go to the college level, there's a big dictionary. It gives words, so many words and so much detail. And then in the elementary school, you have, no, just a small dictionary with big letters, and it gives some words. So he said that the scriptures are like that. They're given at different times to different people according to their situation. And that in the Vedas, they're so extensive and so detailed that we are able to come closer to the reality of the Supreme Lord, how he lies down within the creation, how the created elements are supplied by the Lord, and how he lies down, and then Lord Brahma comes from his navel, and he himself infuses the knowledge to Brahma after Brahma has to work for it. He goes down the lotus stem. He can't find anything but darkness. He doesn't know what he's doing, where he is, who he is. And then he hears the tapa to perform penance and austerity. So he sits down and starts meditating. And then the Lord reveals himself. So we're kind of in a similar situation. We're running around this material world like fools, trying to, our natural propensity is to enjoy, to accumulate, to be the best, to be little gods in this world. And then we just get bewildered. It's like, oh, this is not working. And so we hopefully come across somebody who can give us the direction. So, okay, we'll sit down and worship Krishna. Do it this way, do it that way, chant Hare Krishna. Get that internal life started. So there's so much detail about the creation. We have like the demigods. The Bible talks about like angels and stuff, but it doesn't go into a lot of detail that I know. But this discussion in the Vedas about the demigods, how it's the Lord's material creation. And of course, like every other organization we have that we see, there's people involved. Someone runs this department, someone inspires, someone creates certain things, somebody maintains, they water the plants in the garden, someone puts the seeds in, the sun makes it grow. And then within the creation, the Lord has his people that are in charge of different parts of the creation, even though we don't see them. But when you read it in the pages of these books, you understand that these living entities are on a different platform of life than we're on, and they're keeping things organized and going. So it goes on. I was reading, and Prabhupada was saying that no other scripture or religion gives the details that we have here. And it's not that the other teachings are wrong. It's just that we're fortunate to be in a place where it's just so detailed and so extensive. And not that we all are qualified to really delve into it. Personally, I know I'm not, but that's just me. Prabhupada never compromised his conviction on the superiority of the Vedas. He knew the place of the Vedas. He knew the effect of understanding the Vedas, and Prabhupada pushed extensively for the books to be printed and passed out so that people can come in contact with this knowledge. We really don't know the effect it has on so many people. I was in line here in New Vrindavan at the Sunday feast. And there was a young man in front of me, about the age of my oldest son, like 45, 50, something like that. And I helped him save his place in line because his little daughter was going to do something. So he said, I've been coming here for years. And he said, I met the devotees, meaning my children, in high school. And he said they had such a profound effect on me. And I'll guarantee you that's not that our children were in the schools preaching. Because when our children left the school in New Vrindavan and went to the public schools, it was such a traumatic change because the devotees from New Vrindavan were not accepted in the outside community at that time. We are now, but we weren't then. So I know that they weren't like preaching. But this young man, just by their association, he said, I became a vegetarian. He said, I've been a vegetarian ever since. And we're talking like 30, 40 years here. And he said, my parents thought I was crazy. And they still don't understand. But just the effect of being around the philosophy, this higher philosophy. And one of our young men here that's been a corporate officer here for years, he had, New Vrindavan had some bad issues in our schools. And some of our kids, when they left here, did not want to deal with Krishna consciousness. And this young man was one of them. He said, I didn't want to hear the name of Krishna. I wanted nothing to do with it. He said, and I tried the most I could to forget Krishna consciousness. I didn't want any part of it. So he goes off to college and he started realizing that the education that he had, even though there's some bad apples in our teachers, the knowledge and the association of Prabhupada and the books and the teachings, he was so much more advanced than all these other kids in the school. He said they were just like animals. They had no idea what was right or wrong or what life was for. He said, I realized at that point I had such a good foundation of life and knowledge about where I was, what I was doing, what my purpose in life was. He said, I really realized that it was a gift. And he said, and then one day the devotees came to his school and they were giving some presentation on some stage or something. And he said this guy was playing the mridanga and he didn't really know what he was doing. He said, so I told the guy, he said, do you mind if I give it a try? So he took the mridanga, and of course he knew how to play from being in the Gurukula. So he played, and so he got back into Krishna consciousness just because of that past association. It's quite amazing. So let's see. Prabhupada says that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the sunam bonum. And I was thinking, is that a word that Prabhupada made up? What is a sunam bonum? I mean, I know I've heard him say it before. So I looked it up and it says it's the chief or the supreme good. In Latin, it literally means the highest good. So, I mean, we see things that we think are good for us, right? Oh, watching the sunset. Oh, that feels so good. It looks so beautiful. Oh, I'm whatever, eating something. Oh, it's so good, or whatever. But according to Prabhupada, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest good. That even if we don't understand it, a lot of times there's stuff that's way over our head, but still, for us, it's like a medicine. It purifies the soul. It deepens our connection. I mean, I know when Prabhupada was traveling in India with the devotees, they would go to places. Prabhupada would give class in Hindi. Could you imagine being in a Bhagavatam class for an hour or more and not understand a word? But Prabhupada said, no, you just keep on listening. Even if you don't understand, it will act. The purification of the topic, the vibration of the words, like they say nowadays, the vibrations. It's just on such a high platform. It's a supreme good, the highest good. So in the Bhagavatam, 10:1457. The original unmanifested form of material nature is the source of the material things, and the source of even that subtle material nature is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. What then could one ascertain to be separate from him? So Krishna is everywhere. All the energies, everything, everyone is Krishna's energy. So nothing is really separate from him. Like it says, it's like the simultaneously one and different. Krishna is everything, but at the same time, he's a part, right? This is all Krishna's energy. So there's something good about everything. It's our vision. We have to get that salve of love so that we're able to see even a difficult situation or in a bad place. Oh, this is Krishna's energy. There has to be something good. So, like the consciousness, Krishna consciousness, to be conscious of Krishna everywhere in any situation is to our advantage. Not that we see the form of the Lord, but just realize that he's part of the picture, that it's actually basically his energy. So I had said this already, but a lot of the subject matter of the Bhagavatam is over my head. The prayers to the personified Vedas in the Krishna book. It's like, okay, prayers to the personified Vedas. It's like, okay, maybe sometime in maybe not in this life, but sometime maybe I'll learn to actually be able to grasp. You hear, I mean, there's devotees that understand the whole creation. They're doing the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, all the different planetary systems. And it's like, wow, I'm so low. I'm just like such a minute living entity. And my ability is so minute. I was thinking yesterday how Srila Prabhupada was so vastly learned. I mean, he didn't take his knowledge from one place. And it's not just like book knowledge with Srila Prabhupada. He's in a whole different atmosphere. Srila Prabhupada is on a level of pure devotional service that most of us can only hear about to associate with. I was thinking he was not just so scholarly, but also he was able to present knowledge that like the smartest person that we know, most intellectual, scientist type of person, probably could have just a total conversation and infuse Krishna consciousness at their level of intelligence. And at the same time, for the simple-minded and the simple people that are not on that type of intellectual level, he had his whole presentation was also there. And he's got like the Srimad Bhagavatam, which has just so many varieties of so many topics. And then you have the Krishna book, the summary study for people that are not so scholarly or intellectual. I was really thinking a lot about Prabhupada's abilities. Just what an extraordinarily, not only advanced, but materially qualified person Prabhupada was. To take all these vast literatures that he quotes from, which means he knows them, and he puts them into a book form and intertwines it throughout the stories of the Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita, and gives all these details of practical knowledge for the time and circumstance where we're living. It's like amazing. What an amazing personality, and so simple and so humble. It's like that's what I really liked about Srila Prabhupada when I met him. He was just so down to earth and so simple and so loving. It was like, wow. He said to me, "Do you like me?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I just love you." You could just fall in love with him. He was just so sweet and so personal and so deeply caring. And you hear that about the Lord himself and the different devotees of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. When Lord Chaitanya left the planet and Narottam Das Thakur went there, I mean, the people were just totally devastated. Totally devastated. They had no life. And, when the Goswamis left, people just didn't want to live anymore. And it's just because the love was so deep and the people were so wonderful. And look at when Krishna left Vrindavan. I mean, that's what that love and separation is the highest. That's Lord Chaitanya. He's expounding Radharani's love and separation from Krishna. That's the highest, that separation, that love. It's just so simple, but so profound at the same time. Just from trying to understand the creation and then realizing how Prabhupada's ability and such a short time to do the Srimad Bhagavatam in such a short time. Not only that, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I mean, just to read it all is an accomplishment. What to speak of writing it all? So I was thinking about Srila Prabhupada. Okay, here you have in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Madhya Lila, chapter 8, text 121 through 123. The Lord meets Ramananda Roy. Right? Ramananda Roy. He was the governor of Madras. And Lord Chaitanya didn't even deal with the king, Prachaparudra. What to speak of a governor? But somehow or other, Ramananda Roy was so dear to Lord Chaitanya. And he was a Sudra and unapproachable by Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya loved him. He embraced him. And he wanted to have a private conversation. And Lord Chaitanya said, "I wish to hear from you about Lord Krishna." Now here's the governor of Madras, a Sudra, a low-class man of society. And Lord Chaitanya is approaching him, hugging him and saying, "I want to hear from you." And he says, "Indeed, my mind is inclined to desire this. Therefore, I wish to see you again." So he met Ramananda Roy. The Lord approached him, hugged him, and said, I wish to hear from you. My mind's disturbed, and I want to hear more from you. So Lord Chaitanya ordered Ramananda Roy, when they met a separate time in a private place, and he ordered Ramananda Roy, recite a verse from the revealed scriptures concerning the ultimate goal of life. Pretty interesting. Lord Chaitanya is asking a Sudra governor to tell him what the ultimate goal of life is. So the discussion in the Madhya Lila chapter 8 is there. And it starts off, it's simple reading, but it's long. It's really nice. So Ramananda Roy starts out about Varnashram Dharma. He goes through all the different categories of Varnashram Dharma, and the Lord says, I appreciate it. And then he asks them to go further. And then he says, this is all right, but still, you can speak more on the subject. So Ramananda Roy, he continues for one thing after another, one thing telling him, well, okay, so that's that. Then so let's go up to here. This is pure and devotional. And Lord Chaitanya goes, yeah, that's good, but let's go a little farther. And so the discussion goes on and on and on. And so Ramananda Roy goes into the primary rasas, right? You've got the 5 primary rasas. What is it? Dasya ras, Madhurya ras, all those different rasas. And Lord Chaitanya is going, yeah, that's good, but keep on going. So he goes to the platform of Madhurya ras, and then he goes to Radharani, and then he goes to Radharani's separation. And Lord Chaitanya is finally satisfied that this is like. So Lord Chaitanya is asking him, and Ramananda Roy's replying, I don't know anything about this. I simply vibrate the sound you make me speak. This is text 121. 122. I simply repeat like a parrot whatever instructions you have given me. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Who can understand your dramatic performances? And then he says, you inspire me within the heart, and you make me speak with the tongue. I do not know whether I'm speaking well or badly. So this reminded me of Srila Prabhupada. We have these vast amount of literatures that not everyone is going to be able to study. Prabhupada wanted us to study these literatures. Not all of us are people that, we have our class, that's one thing, but to actually study the books and be able to repeat all these different pastimes and the details, that's a special person. That's definitely not my category. And I was thinking, but Prabhupada was able to take the text of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he himself was reading different translations of the different acharyas from the past. And he composed the text, the Sanskrit, he did the Sanskrit, the text, the transliteration, the purport he put in to explain the different verses. And he always said, these are not my purports. Prabhupada, why are you reading your own books? Well, these are not my books. Krishna has inspired. And so we see with the Ramananda Roy's situation, he's explaining all the details of rasa and devotion to Lord Chaitanya. And finally, he gets to the place and he says, my Lord, you are the one inspiring me within my heart and make me speak with his tongue. I don't know whether I'm speaking well or badly. And Prabhupada said the same thing, that his purports were his, what did he say? His ecstasies. Prabhupada was connected with Krishna, and Krishna was inspiring Prabhupada for these books. They're Krishna's, what is it? The Gita Govinda. Gita Govinda. No. Who was it? Madhavacharya. When the deities in Jaipur, Radharani was taken off the altar. There's Govinda, was taken to Jaipur when Aurangzeb demolishing the temples in Vrindavan. Govinda, the Govinda deity, made his way, took like 10 years or something to make his way through ox cart, being protected in certain little cities along the way. And the king of Jaipur built the city. And he built it so that in his window, he could look right into the temple of Govinda. So he could see the deities when he got up. He was a great devotee. Jai Singh, I believe, was his name. So Radharani was on the altar. You go to Jaipur now, you'll see Radharani on the altar. And at one particular point, one of the other Sampradayas said that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were the ones worshiping the Govinda deity. They said these people are not bona fide because they don't have a translation of, I can't remember. One of the scriptures that all the different Sampradayas have, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas didn't have.
Is it the Brahma Sutra? Sorry, the Vedanta Sutra, I think.
Yes, I think it's the Vedanta Sutra.
Yes.
And so so they took Radharani off the altar because they said that she's not supposed to be in the picture. So the king, he told them that, and I think wasn't it Madhavacharya? Was it Madhavacharya? Anyway, I'm sorry for I hadn't thought about this in my class preparation, but the devotee who was sent there to debate with these people had to compile this spiritual literature within a certain amount of time to prove that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were bona fide. So he prayed, and Govinda Basya, that's what it's called. Govinda, the deity, told him, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to speak through you." So he composed this Govinda Basya, and it defeated all their arguments and proved the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were bona fide, that Radharani should be there, and then Radharani was put back on the altar. But that's another incident of Krishna personally appearing to a pure devotee to give a commentary. So Srila Prabhupada, his books, his Bhagavatams, he said, are like deities. Krishna's there, and Krishna personally helped Srila Prabhupada write these literatures. So I thought, how amazing, what an amazing soul Prabhupada was. And sorry to interrupt here. When am I stopping? I've lost track of time.
It's okay. We have about 10 minutes more, and if you still have some time, then the devotees may ask questions if they have any.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm kind of finished with what I had prepared, but maybe if we have some questions, I can go on.
Well, thank you so much, Mother, for sharing this depth of wisdom with us today. And dear devotees, if anyone may have question, comment, realizations, reflections you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your reflections. Hare Krishna. Shrimad Mara Prabhu, please you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. This is a businesses. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Very nice hearing from you, Mataji. I must say that I'm a little bit, I'm trying to deal with the humility that goes through the whole length of your class. So much humility is being expressed, and it's also at some point sounding contradictory. So maybe you may help me out. Of course, personally, you express so much humility, even though you were speaking such a very realized knowledge and much appreciation for the Bhagavatam and Prabhupada, which is not ordinary. But then when you started describing the humility of how you were comparing Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada with Ramananda Rai, there I find some contradiction, because these are usually from the book, but in practical sense, and any ordinary person listening to this who is not a devotee will also find this contradiction and may be wondering, what are we talking about? That a governor of a state is considered low class, Shudra. It's a low class, it's a governor of a state, but it's a low class and it's a Shudra. I think this kind of creates some revolt in my mind. And then, even though the book might say that like that, but then what happened afterward is doesn't show that he's a low class. He was full of knowledge.
Right.
And then by humility, he said that, oh, yeah, Lord, you are speaking through me. But if he's considered a low class, what is expected of a low class person? And then secondly, how can a governor of a state be a low class? So, I mean, these are some of the contradiction in these statements, which I want you to resolve. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Okay, well, low class is probably not the best word to have used, but the different divisions of, I don't know why the word Sudra was in there, but he was not somebody that the Lord in a renounced order of life would associate with. Low class, you're right, is not the word to have used. Sudra, I thought I got that from the text. I believe I did, but I don't remember. I didn't write down exactly the context, but I know that the Lord, being a sannyasi, did not usually associate with anyone in that line. He associated with, like, he didn't associate with King Prataparudra because he was a worldly. Sudra may not be the best word, or low class, worldly man. He was a worldly man. Being a governor, he was a worldly man. He dealt with common people. He was a pound, shilling, pence man. So maybe that's a better way to have put it. And the Lord did not generally, sannyasi generally does not deal with pounds, shilling, pence. At least Lord Chaitanya, we see, was really strict when it came to women, materialistic people. But because Ramananda Roy was such a great devotee, in reality, the Lord wanted his association, wanted to hear from him. Whereas Prataparudra took him, I mean, he touched the Lord, he helped the Lord one time, and the Lord was like not so happy. But when Prataparudra took all his kingly his clothes after the Ratha Yatra and went in the garden where Lord Chaitanya was, he did approach Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was fine with that. I'm sure it's all circumstantial. There's a lot more to it with these particular people. But my apologies if I used the wrong word. I'll have to look and see if Sudra was the word that was used.
Yes, I did say that this is mentioned in the book. I did say that this is according to the book you were speaking. So I was just pointing out that in our social milieu today, people will misunderstand that calling a governor of a state as low class. And
Those were my words. Those were my words. That was the wrong. I know nowadays you have to be very careful with anything like that. It's like a firecracker, you don't ever know when you're gonna. I just went to a meeting about something, and the person at the meeting just like cried the whole time. It was like, oh, what did we say? What did we do? You just don't know what someone's, as they say, triggers are. So my apologies. Low class was not what I should have said.
Thank you very much. You don't need you don't need an apology. Okay, so just slightly related to the same question. Of course, you've already answered, but just to again mention some of the seeming contradiction. Before Lord Chintaya met Ramanuja Rai, he actually got an introduction.
Ramananda Rai.
Yeah, Lord Chaitanya was requested by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to meet with Ramananda Rai. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya got converted, and knowing and seeing the mood of Lord Chaitanya, and then immediately remembered this is friend, Ramananda Rai said, no, you need to meet somebody. He's a governor of a state, but when you pass that place, you need to meet him. He is exactly in the mood of what you're describing to me. So Lord Chaitanya had already had an introduction to Ramananda Rai's personality and his level of consciousness. So that meeting was also not by chance, because Sarvabhauma had recommended Ramananda Rai. So that also shows that he wasn't just a low class, nobody, ignorant Shudra. Okay. So, and then another thing which comes to my mind while you're speaking is Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text 21, Yajad Asharitis Tristas. Whatever a great man does, common men follow. So a governor of a state, of course, would be considered a great man in a society. And in our preaching, and especially our own Gurudev, Bhakti Maharaj, strategy of preaching is to get the big fish to appreciate Krishna consciousness. Because whatever a great man does, a common man will follow. And in fact, some people even criticize, or no, maybe not criticize, remark that why Krishna consciousness seemed to be growing at such a pace, maybe it could have gone even more farther, bigger, is if we have, celebrities, high class people being the preachers, unlike, like people coming from the streets, people coming from all kind of background, and they become devotees and they are the preachers, and people look at them as, who are these people? But then like in Christianity, you find all these big guys, who seems to be accomplished, and then they become the pastors, and then they speak high, or they're people already recognized in the society. So just like Bhagavad Gita says, whatever a great man what a great man does, common men follow. So I'm just trying to say that our own scripture says whatever a great man does. So great man in a society usually mean the leaders in the society, the governors, the kings, etc. These are the so-called great men, and I think they are rightly called so as great men. Then even again, if our scripture is now saying that the kings and the governors are low class, whereas elsewhere, Krishna says that whatever a great man does, common men follow. And then we see king like Prataparudra trying to be a devotee. What is his name? Ramananda Rai trying to speak on the scripture, and then again we still consider them Shudra. I mean, I find that a bit contradictory. I mean, come on, what is this? So I hope you follow. You understand what I'm saying. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, well, I don't think that the scriptures call them low-class men, but I think Lord Chaitanya himself, being the perfect sannyasi, did not want to associate with materialistic people. Prabhupada himself wanted to cultivate the bigger, more important people in society eventually. That's what he did too. He actually dealt with a lot of people on that level, knowing, well, even George Harrison, people that have the ability to influence masses. He even talked about devotees eventually being like the governors, and like you have Tulsi Garber in Hawaii. Her father's a devotee and he's a senator. She was a senator. She's now working with the staff of President Trump. I don't think it's a matter of looking down on people that are in a prominent position. And again, I say my words were not well chosen, but I don't think Prabhupada's intention or movement was to look down on prominent people. And it's true, Bhaktirtha Maharaj had a great influence with people in a more well-situated or prominent position in the society, as Radhanath Maharaj does too. And that's how preaching goes. Because you're right, whatever a great man does, other people follow. But that doesn't mean that Lord Chaitanya himself went and tried to cultivate these people. He didn't. You have Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, who were extremely prominent people, very wealthy. They were they were the right-hand man of the person in charge of the country at the time. And he made the arrangement for them to leave their position, and they lived very simply in Vrindavan, but they did the work that Lord Chaitanya wanted. So I don't think that cultivating those higher people is wrong. I think it's what Prabhupada did. But at the same time, Lord Chaitanya didn't necessarily. He did it on a different level and inspired people by the literatures written by these great souls. He didn't tell them to stay in their prominent position of worldly society because they had another mission. I understand your point, though.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
I was speaking to the wind. Sorry. I was saying big thank you to Mother JAYASRI for such a brilliant expression, and His Grace Shriman Varaha Prabhu for such candid expression as well. Does anyone have something to ask or to reflect on from what has been discussed so far? Mother JAYASRI, I'm trying to revisit this humility. I'm not sure whether it is an art or it is a science, this humility. But it is such an important tool that a devotee should always possess. Now, the way in this world we understand humility could lead to abuse, could lead to so much mistreatment. So my question to you is, how does a devotee practice humility and at the same time try to prevent the chances of other people abusing them? Because obviously we do not want to be abused, for one, because when a devotee gets abused, the abuser is going to be punished. And the devotee does not want anybody punished. So what does a devotee do to prevent other people abusing them simply because they are practicing humility? Hare Krishna.
Well, I mean, it seems if someone has an abusive attitude, it depends on how extreme it is. Like if someone has the attitude that they're going to hurt somebody else, no matter what the other person does or says, then it's kind of hard to diffuse somebody like that, you know? And humility, it's a big topic. Humility doesn't mean always just like, you know, lowering yourself to be stepped on. But like you see, remember in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, when Rupa and Sanat and Goswami were in Vrindavan, and that like a Digvijay, the conqueror from all over that could defeat anyone in argument, he wanted to debate with Rupa and Sanat Goswami, but they really didn't want to be bothered with it. So they signed this paper saying that he had defeated them, right? So that was a certain type of humility, and it diffused him because it gave him what he wanted. But Jiva Goswami couldn't tolerate that his uncles had been put through that, because he knew that they could defeat this fellow. And so he debated with him and won. But when Sanat Goswami heard that, he was really angry at Jiva Goswami. He told him to leave Vrindavan, if you remember, and Jiva Goswami ended up living like in an alligator hole or something. So on one hand, Jiva Goswami was right, and that was his humility to defeat this Digvijay fellow. And for the Rupa and Sanatan, their humility was to let the guy win. So it's probably a pretty individual situation. Personally, if someone is abusive, I think humility means getting out of their way, or, you know, turning them in, or even fighting back, or, you know, but then in certain circumstances, sometimes you just, okay, Prabhu, yeah, whatever you say, sure, okay. You know, I mean, who wants to be bothered with fighting with people who are abusive? If they're abusive, what can you do? You know, but each situation is a little different. I was in a situation one time where I was not a happy camper. I was going through a lot from the hands of one particular person. And there was no way to fight back. So I ended up just leaving, you know. And they definitely got reactions for their activities, and learned from it and apologized years later. Yeah, no one should be in an abusive situation.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mother. Just like you said, this is a very huge topic, and I appreciate the explanation given so far. But I was also thinking like the pastimes of Srivas Thakur, who was staged to be a worshiper of Kali, and he just straight away admitted
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, why would Srivastava Kaur right away admit to he being a Kali worshiper when he knows within his heart that he's not? And with that, those who gave these false accusations are going to suffer. There was a time there was a similar discussion on this same platform, and my big brother Govinda Prabhu was saying, sometimes it is better for earthly beings to punish an individual as opposed to leaving the punishment for Krishna to do it, because it will be more intense. So I was thinking that Srivastava Kaur could have said, no, I didn't do it. And then you leave the rest to the world. But he just right away admitted that, yes, that is who I am, and he's not. So these things are kind of complex too. Of course, my brain is already foggy, so there is no possibility of understanding. But sometimes these great acharyas, their lifestyle, it's difficult to understand. But thank you for the explanation. I think we have Shrimavara Prabhu sent up. Prabhuji, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna once again, Mataji. It's a great pleasure having you here because your personality and years of devotional service is a pointer to us in many ways. So I want to benefit as much as you can share with us. So you mentioned when you were developing this class or your presentation, you mentioned the different period that New Vrindavan went through. Up to a point, some people, some inmate who would not like to be identified with Krishna or with the community, etc., because of the different phases, the community has gone through. Now, somebody like you, and I know you're not the only one, but you're one of the few rare souls who lived through all those different phases. And you were able to maintain your faith, and you've seen both the bright and the dark side, or the dark and the bright side of that community. And that is something very, very I don't know how to put it, but something that I want to aspire for, to live long enough to be able to live through the difficult period and then again witness the bright period. Not so many people have that grace. So you're there as a witness to all these different phases. What I want from you, Mataji, is what would you say is your particular experience in being able to survive all those, and what advice you have for us that are trying to build up communities for Krishna consciousness? And we're also going through different phases right now. We've seen some bright period, we're seeing some low period right now. We're dreaming for a better period to come. So what advice you have for us so that we can also be able to have a wonderful experience like you had? Hare Krishna.
Well, I mean, yes, New Vrindavan went through some really extraordinarily difficult times, things that most communities will never have to go through. But I met Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was the first devotee I ever met. Krishna put me right with Srila Prabhupada right in the beginning. And he's the one who gave me my first book, who taught me about Krishna first, personally. It wasn't like it was in a class. I was sitting with him and a friend that I had. And the depth, like it says, a moment's association with a pure devotee. It's true. My association with Srila Prabhupada has been my stronghold through everything. I'm not here for New Vrindavan. I'm not here for anything except my direct service to Srila Prabhupada. That's what I'm doing. That's my
Wow.
life.
Wow.
So all these other things are just part of the unfortunate situation of Kali Yuga. And why I stayed in New Vrindavan, I don't know. I could have gone anywhere. But somehow or other, Krishna just put me in the right association. Radhanath Swami, Malati, Nityadita, Chandramali. Radhanath Maharaj told me one time, he said, I think the reason we all stayed was because we were the ones who brought New Vrindavan back into ISKCON. If you may or may not know that ISKCON had kicked New Vrindavan out of ISKCON. And we were the ones who brought New Vrindavan back into ISKCON. So I figured that I must have had a purpose because I was part of that team. I was a corporate officer for years. You know, Krishna just put me in that situation and I just stayed here. I could have gone anywhere, but somehow or other I stayed, and now New Vrindavan's flourishing. I'm so satisfied. I feel like, okay, Prabhupada, I did what you asked me to do, and New Vrindavan is now alive and well. Because in several places, Prabhupada said, he said, I pray every day for the success of New Vrindavan. New Vrindavan was very dear to Prabhupada. And, you know, it's gone through its phases, but it's the Dham, and the deities are here.
Thank you.
Shomara Prabhu, thank you for the question. Mother Jayasree, thank you. Just like my big brother said, your presence alone is a blessing to all of us.
I have to say it's not really my presence. It's my connection with Srila Prabhupada that's valuable. I'm just a fallen conditioned soul trying to seek that shelter myself and find my connection to Krishna.
Thank you. Mother Gail, please give me a mute.
Hare Krishna, Mother Jayasree. Yeah, your connection with Srila Prabhupada is very endearing. I've heard you speak on other forums about that connection, and it's very touching to the heart, something that I wish I could have myself with somebody. Yeah, I raised my hand just to offer my understandings of humility that understandings that I've garnered from various sources, but that I like, you know. So one understanding that I've had about humility is that it should not be confused with low self-esteem. And I think that confusion is what gets people into a lot of trouble, meaning that allows them to accept treatment from others that they should not accept. You know, humility does not mean that you think yourself lower than the stool or worm in stool when you're not at that level, for one thing. You know, another aspect of humility is that it means you put Krishna's desires above your own personal or egotistical desires. And when you do that, then your actions may have the appearance of being very prideful, like even Arjuna, when he was, you know, going after his relatives to kill them, There doesn't seem to be anything humble about that action, but it was the utmost humility. Why? Because it's the last thing he wanted to do, but he was doing it because that's what Krishna wanted. And so when it comes to putting Krishna's desires ahead of our own, what looks like the most prideful actions can actually be the most humble actions. And what looks like very humble actions can actually be not humble, but one of low self-esteem. Humility is a question of putting Krishna first, not oneself. And when that happens, that humility can take very, very varied form. As you were saying, and humility looks very different in different circumstances. Just one last thing is that I'm remembering that pastime, I think it was between Narada Muni and his snake, where, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the pastime, where, Narada Muni instructed the snake to be humble, and the snake misunderstood that to mean that he should never defend himself. And Narada Muni said, no, sometimes, and because the snake misunderstood, he was subjected to being abused. But Narada Muni corrected him and said, no, it doesn't mean that you don't defend yourself. Sometimes it means that you just show your hoods, or something like that. Anyway, yeah, that was my point. Humility can look something like very different from what we expect it to be if we don't understand the concept properly. Hare Krishna.
That was good. I like that. Yeah, Narada Muni told him not to bite anybody. And then he said, but I didn't tell you not to show your hoods, so that they wouldn't abuse him.
Oh, Govinda Prabhu, yes, please give me unmute, Govinda Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sadhu Prabhu. And thank you very, very much, Mata, for this wonderful class. The topic today and the questions the devotees are asking, I think is more surrounded around humility. I think Krishna wants us to take that home, most of us, how to understand this word humility and to practice humility. In the stanza of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also did mention of humility. And he gave us an example of a blade of grass. Say, be humble than a blade of grass, and devoid of all force of false prestige, and be humbler than a tree. So, be humble than a blade of grass. People stumble on grass, and the grass does not respond, does not protest. A tree can be abused in different situations, different circumstances. A tree still stands still. It doesn't defend. In otherwise, humility does not mean low self-esteem. Arjuna also exhibited that when Krishna asked him to kill. Arjuna tried to defend his right and prove to Krishna it's not a right thing for him to do. But eventually, Arjuna had to surrender to Krishna. Draupadi did the same thing. She tried to protect herself from the Kauravas, and as a result of that, Krishna did not come. until she gave up the idea of protests and surrendered fully to the Lord. And then immediately the Lord came. So my question is, at what point can we give up the self-defense in order to exercise this quality of humility?
I mean, I don't think there's any black and white or hard and fast rule to that. Each situation is very individual. I mean, Lord Chaitanya did say to be lower than the blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respects to others. And Prabhupada does in certain places say that the grass gets stepped on and doesn't protest, and that the tree gives shade, even if the hunter is, or the lumber person is coming to cut it down. But each circumstance is different. You know, sometimes to actually not react to someone who's being abusive to you is a good thing and the right thing. And sometimes if you do react, unless you really are able to overpower that person, they would become stronger in their abuse. So I think it's really individual and circumstantial. Somebody said something at a meeting the other day. And I immediately just stopped and I said, that's not right. It was not exactly an abusive comment, but kind of. And it was a man, you know, but, you know, sometimes I just will say, hey, you're not right. This is not right. And I you know, I had my point, and it, as they say, it worked. But I know in the past, in one particular circumstance where I was the subject of abuse, I, you know, tried that, and that didn't work. That made it worse. You know, it's an individual situation. And I mean, after giving that person a number of years of tolerating their situation with me, I ended up leaving, you know, and they actually became the loser in the situation and got a good kick from Krishna over it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Mother. Your last point of ending your answer, my God brother Sahadev did mention that once I asked the same question. You know, you give up the idea of speaking your right or challenging the situation to make it right. And as a result of that, Krishna has to come in and kick this person off. And this person might live his devotional career. So which is best? To fight and get things right so that the person will stay, or to leave it for Krishna, leave it to Krishna for the disaster to take place?
But there's no guarantee that if you fight with them that they're going to stay. You know, it doesn't always work like that. And just because somebody leaves, actually, I read a letter one time years ago when I was a brahmacharini. It was talking about the temple president and the head pujari leaving Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said they think they left on their own. But because of their offenses to the women and the children, two different circumstances, Krishna took their taste away and they left. So, I mean, someone leaving Krishna consciousness could be Krishna taking away their taste because of their offenses. But just because you challenge them doesn't mean they're going to learn. You know, sometimes you try and challenge somebody and they get worse. They get more offensive. You know, that definitely a fact. Some people just can't be challenged or corrected or anything. So it's really individual. I mean, sometimes for me, if there's a situation to challenge somebody is the wrong thing. You know, they just get worse, or they get offended, or they just turn it right back around on you. And, you know, it's kind of a waste of time where I could be doing something else. It takes a finer intelligence. You know, each situation is different.
Thank you so much, Mother. These are areas, like you've indicated several times, that have no finite answers.
Yeah.
They are all circumstantial. So
Yeah.
I guess we pray to the Lord to help us with the necessary intelligence to do the right thing at the right time. Yes. There is one video I would like to share, but not being sure of YouTube's privacy rules, we will not be able to share it while we are still alive. Once we go off live, we'll try to play it to give some, it's a very short video to give some insight about this topic of humility. And Mother JAYASRI, if you may have some concluded remarks, you may do that before we bring this to a close.
Okay, well, again, thank you. Thank you very much for your association. Thank you for being aspiring devotees, so dedicated to have a class regularly. That's very wonderful, and doing such a good job with it too. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mother, for your blessings. And dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation to our dearest auntie and grand auntie, Her Grace JAYASRI Devi, for sharing her love and wisdom with us today. Please, you may all unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Mancha Kalpa,
Namo Namaha.
All glories to her.
Grace Mother JAYASRI Devi Dashi Ki.
Jai.
Pandacharya is Divine Grace La Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinde Ki. Jai. Go, Piminande, Thank you.